Hey guys, what's going on? So today I wanted to share a video with you guys. I've got a lot of things on my mind recently, but there's one thing I really wanted to get off my chest, and there's one thing I really wanted to share with everyone out there in the public. Pretty much my story. I'm 32. I'll be 33 coming May, and it's been a long journey. It has been a really long journey for me. There's been ups, there's been downs, there's been sad moments in my life, there's been happy moments in my life. There's been moments where I felt like I'm going through a desert, and then there's moments where I feel like I'm in a paradise. But through it all, I've seen my family there. I've seen my closest friends there, and it feels good. It feels great, and I'm super thankful and blessed for them. I thank God every day for my beautiful wife, my amazing son, and they're great blessings. They're great things that I love so much. That I sit today and I look back and I say, "Wow, God, look what you've done." Now, I know many of you aren't, religious, spiritual, whatnot, but I am. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in the Holy Spirit. And, I believe that every day, God allows me to wake up to be able to at least say thank you. And, I wanted to share a verse, and it's in the book of Psalms. Very simple. It says, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." Now some of you are like, huh? But short, sweet, and simple, for those that are under God's protection and His shadow, He got you. Simple. He'll protect you. He'll make sure that no harm will come to you. And I wanted to share part of my testimony. And for those that don't know what a testimony is, it's a story. It's my story. I won't be extensive. I won't go into depth. But there's some things I do want to share, because I don't know who needs to hear this in their life. But if this is you, I pray that this message reaches you. I pray that this message gets to you. And I pray that this message can help you in your life to know that God got you. He'll help you if you just let Him. My story begins May 17th of 1989. I was born like every other baby would be, under one condition. Unfortunately, my mother my biological mother was in real deep into prostitution, drugs, alcohol. And unfortunately, there was no help for her, in the sense that she didn't want it. She didn't want help. I spoke to family, my biological family, and they informed me that there was help. So I was born, like any other baby, at 12 o'clock at night to a hospital. And the doctors noticed that there's, something wrong with the way that this mother acts towards the child. Felt abandoned. And the mother was real kind of away from the baby. So they made a report to Child Protective Services to keep an eye on her and the baby. Within the week of being born, police picked me up at a local Bridgeport shelter and took me into the precinct to care for me under Child Protective Services. Fortunately, my biological mother left me abandoned for a hit of drugs and for sex, and left me abandoned in a halfway shelter house. This was a couple weeks of being born. I don't remember much of my infancy. I don't remember much of being a baby. My brain probably wasn't really developed at that time. But what I got from the report that was given to me by Hartford, by DCF, was that they arrested her and they brought her in on charges of child negligence and child abandonment. She was arrested and spent a couple of years in jail. During that time, I was placed into foster home, and really the report that was given to me was that, the first foster home, after a couple months, they sent me away. They didn't want me. The second foster home, I was taken away. The report given to me by DCF in the paper says that doctors noticed that there were lesions and bruises on my body, indications of abuse. Unfortunately, my second child foster home abused me physically, and I don't remember that, so I was still young. When the doctors took me in, to care for me, they noticed that I missed all my shots, and I was sick. My third foster home, was given to me by God. And why do I say that I was placed there by God? Was because it was a divine intervention in my infancy. Like the verse says, God will protect those. Psalms 91:2 says, I say the Lord, He is my friend, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I lay my trust. Trust in Him. I didn't know, the plans that God has for me as a baby, but God did. And He placed me into a foster home with a loving mother and a loving father. And they took me into the hospital. The doctors noticed I was underweight, I had no shots, and I was sick. I had an asthma attack. I was about a year old. But the doctors said, maybe he'll make it, maybe he won't. And while I'm reading this report that was given to me, I'm like, I went through so much as a baby. And I was just a baby. But yet, God was there. They took care of me, and they raised me as a baby. I think the most youngest picture I have of that I have physically, I was about maybe 2 years old. And that was when DCF released my mother to try to bring back, child and mother back into a bond program that they had. But unfortunately, my mother still was addicted to drugs and still was addicted to alcohol and still prostituting herself. So they told her, in order to get your son back, you would have to go through a whole rehab. The report said that she said no, she's fine, and she's not on any drugs, but failing multiple drug and alcohol tests prove otherwise. So she went into rehab. Unfortunately, she was kicked out of rehab 2 months later for violation of parole as well, for using multiple drug use. They sent me to probate family court at the age of 2, where they tried to reunify my mother and I. But my biological mother, unfortunately, the court said, no, this is not happening. She's too into drugs, and there's no way that we're gonna leave this child with her. So, the court ruled out and closed my case permanently. That any contact with my biological mother or her family was to be extinct. But little did I know that in 1992, I was born 1989, 90, 91, 92, almost 3 years later, that God touched my adopted mother into keeping me as her last adoptive son. Now, story is that my adopted mother, fostered so many children. About 17 kids she's fostered. And she's adopted almost 20 kids. When my mother and father adopted me, let's see, They were about early 70s when they adopted me. That's up there. Age is up there. So you guys can imagine. But God knew what he was doing. And God, spoke to my adopted mother. Told her, hey, pick him. And I remember mommy telling me the story. I said, Mommy, why did you pick me? She said, I didn't want to pick you. And I said, but why did you pick me? She said, because God told me to. And my mother, being a woman of God as she is, she remembers telling me a story that one day she was in the hallway and she saw me through a glass window sitting down, and God telling her, pick him, because I have chosen him to be my servant. And I remember that story. And they took me to court, and they signed me the adoption records. And since 1992, my name has been Jamie Benjamin Grajales, and I was adopted. And I can't say, hey, it was great, it was all, great and amazing. No, my childhood was tough. It was tough. Having older parents was not easy. Being raised by, the first, A, they're older. B, they're strict Pentecostals. And C, they're old school. So me growing up, it's like, it was hard, in the sense of not, having what I wanted. But I always have what I needed. I can never say that my mom and dad never gave me what I needed. I can never say I went to bed hungry. I can never say I never had brand new clothes on my back every school year. I can never say that we never had a Christmas. No. I can never say that, that they didn't love me. They did. I can never say that at 6 in the morning we will get up to be 6:30 in the hospital to see the doctors in the clinic 3 times a week, when the clinic doesn't open until 8. My mom always made sure that we were the first patients to be seen on the dot. That if the appointment was for 8 o'clock, you best believe that doctor is walking through that door at 8 o'clock, and that there is no waiting. And she did that with myself and my other 4 brothers. So it was good. And being raised in church, being raised into knowing God and whatnot, was great. But I never had a divine relationship with God. See, there's a difference between going to church because mom and dad tell you to, or going to church because that's just the thing to do, or going to church because you want to feel good. It doesn't work that way. You go to church not to feel good, but to feel God. And that's something that I need to learn. And as a kid, as a teenager, I went to church because mom and dad. When I was 18, I finally was about at that age. I knew about God, I heard about God, I felt God in my life, but I never really had a one-on-one relationship with God. I only knew God because people told me about him. When I was 18, I left church, I left my home, I moved out, I did my own thing. And I wanted to experience life as if I thought. I wanted to experience something different, something new. So, I started hanging out around people. Stupid stuff. Things that I thought, hey, that was cool, I got it. It was dumb stuff. Because I was thinking that doing these things would make me feel so much better inside. Would make me feel complete inside. Would make me feel as if I had my own identity and the world was in my hands. And it was a waste. And I look back now to all the stupid things that I've done, and I say it was not worth it. And sometimes we need to look to our past and say, is it worth it? Is it worth doing the things that we did over and over and over? It's nuts. And if I can go back in time, there'd be so much I could change. I did go back in time, I wouldn't be here today talking to you guys. If I went back in time, I wouldn't have learned the things that I've learned the hard way. But yeah, I would have never learned them at all. If I went back in time, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. If I went back in time, I wouldn't be the father who I am today. If I went back in time, I wouldn't be the husband that I am today. If I went back in time, I wouldn't be the leader that I am today. If I went back in time, I wouldn't be me. Because everything back in time has created me and driven me to be who I am today. Because God has allowed it to happen that way. Because it's called divine purpose. That if I wanted to go left, God said, let me steer you right. And He's always had everything perfect in order, even though my life was a chaos. I was at age 22. One of the most hardest times of my life. I found myself at the end, just at the end of it. I was over it. I lost my job. I had no friends. I had nothing. It was just tough. And just to go a little bit into detail, I had to steal food from my job at that time. I would literally go back into the office to take people's lunches to eat it because I didn't have food. It was so bad. It really got to a point where I was eating food out of the trash. And I didn't even have clothes. I wore the same clothes over and over and over. Like it began to smell. And it was tough. It was tough, and where I lived, it was such a bad place. You know, it was bad. It was bad. I couldn't sleep. I was depressed. I had anxiety. You know, I didn't know what to do in my life. I was like, maybe I should join the military, and that didn't work for me. Nothing I tried worked. Everything failed for me. I just started saying, I failed myself. And I ended up at the end of my road. And I said to myself, church isn't working for me. I have no friends. I have no family. You know, my mom said, once you leave, there's no coming back. And that stuck to my head. 18, 19, 20, 21, almost 5 years, I stuck into my head. I can't go back home. I felt lost and abandoned. I felt afraid. And it was hard. But remember, guys, He protects us. The moment where I thought God had left me in my past, the moment where I wanted to end it all, I remember like it was yesterday. I was at the window. I wanted to end it all, but God showed up. To a friend, a real good friend of mine. God used him to call me, to tell me to not jump out that window. And yet opened my Bible to Romans 8:18. For I'm sure that the suffering of today won't compare to the blessing of tomorrow. That word impacted my life till today. And I'm 32. That when I feel like I'm suffering, that when I feel like I can't, I don't know how, but yet there's a blessing for tomorrow. My pastor today preached today that in the midst of our crisis, God is going to open the door. And many people are like, what? I'll take it, yeah. But a lot of times, the crisis we see, it's not crisis that, we owe money or we don't have this. It's the crisis inside. The crisis in our heart. In the midst of my crisis, God opened the door and said, I'll show you the way out of there. Because I knock. And I ask, let me in. I did. I let Jesus in. I let God in. And I said, God, help me. Because I know I can't, but you can. And I remember God speaking to me and telling me, I got you. Your greatest breakdown is your greatest breakthrough. That when you can't, I can. And I don't know how. I just know that he did it. 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 And he made a way, and it was possible. And it was amazing because I knew that he did it. And he saved me. He saved me from me. And it was great. Because after that, I left the place where I was at. And I ended up with close friends. I felt safe. And through the many years to come, God has always showed me, I got you. That the suffering of today won't compare to the blessing of tomorrow. I got back on my feet. I was able to go back home. I took care of my parents. You know, I got married. I have a son. You know, everything turned out perfect. In his time, yes, of course, 100%. I got my license, I got my job, I got a beautiful house, I got a gorgeous wife. So many blessings that the Lord has given me. And it's great. I want to read something that I wrote here. That when we feel that we can't, that when we feel this is it, God says no, this is just the start. For those that are listening, sometimes it's hard. This life is tough. But there's always a way. There's always a way. Psalms 91, 11, 12. He will give you angels to watch over you and to keep you in all your steps. And in their hands, they'll hold you up so that your foot doesn't trip against a stone. So many stones but I was able to get to where I'm at today. Because I know that he can, and he did, and he still has. It's not your end, guys. It's just the beginning. It is just the beginning. Don't give up. My biggest mistake, I think, was not reaching out. I had so many people that were there, and I felt that they weren't. But that was just a lie of the enemy. They were there, and they did care. People are willing to help, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with saying, please help me. Because God always has that one person that's always going to help you. That one person that's going to be not the end. And it's going to get better, guys. But we have to learn how to trust. We have to learn how to literally trust in God. If there's one last advice I'd give you guys, it would be, don't give up hope. I had to take off my ring because I am worthy. If there's one last advice I'd give you guys, don't give up. Bible says, for those that persist till the end shall be saved. Persistence wears down resistance. You can do it. Greater is he who is within me than he who is in the world. God will give you every tool and instrument you need to move forward, to get up, to push yourself. You can do this. I'm here, and And there's moments where I'm like, God, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I know you're going to do it. Versus back in the day, God, why me? And I remember saying, God, why me? Why me? And God telling me, it's because it's you. It's because it's you. And it's because it's you guys that you can make it. If you guys ever need help, call. If you ever need a friend, there's people there for you. Guys, I hope this video reaches you. And for those that really needed to hear this, it's not the end. And it's only the beginning. Guys, God bless you. God keep you guys. Take care.